Just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder, if you guys love my videos and want to support me, check out compassion-tees.com. Link is at the end of the video. Alright, this is John Cola with growingyourgreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you coming at you from my backyard garden here in the springtime. And today is actually a really hot day. It's supposed to hit like 90 degrees, I think maybe the first time this year, and we're only in April. And I know some of you guys are in April and you still haven't even passed your last frost date, and here it is, 90 degrees, and some of my plants, frankly, are not liking it. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about a specific plant that I grow, and it's actually a very popular vegetable these days, known as the celery. So this is not celery I grew, this is organically grown celery from the local Sprouts Farmers Market grocery store. And yes, today we're talking about celery. And, you know, specifically my goal over these last, 25 odd years I've been into like eating a healthy diet is to always increase the quality of my food, right? And people are not aware of food quality. They think celery is celery is celery. If you just go buy celery, you're gonna get the same nutrition whether you buy it at Sprouts or whether you buy it at the farmer's market or whether you grow it yourself. And in my opinion, that's totally, the farthest thing from the truth, right? It is totally critical how the food you eat is grown. And a simple example that many of you guys will relate to, some of you guys may not, is if you guys only buy tomatoes, like beefsteak tomatoes, from the grocery store, right? They tend to be pink, they're picked too early, and they're shipped. They have basically zero flavor. They taste like garbage, right, in my opinion. And, if you've grown your own tomatoes and harvest them fresh, then and ripe, you know what a tomato should taste like. It's rich of flavor, it has umami flavors, it has more vitamins, minerals, and pigments in there, more nutritious for you. And if you're not lucky enough to grow your own garden, you should. And then the other thing is, if you could just go to a farmer's market, most farmers will pick the produce far more riper, is that a word? Far more riper, than you can buy at the grocery store. So I would encourage you guys, if you guys aren't growing your own, is to support local farmers. But of course, the best of all, that's what I try to do, the best in this episode. We're going to share with you guys the best celery to juice, the best juicer to use, so you guys can have the best celery juice in the entire world that literally you can grow in your backyard like I am here. Now, there's pros and cons of growing different food items, I grow a lot of leafy greens because they, in my opinion, benefit me a lot more, because I'm eating the leaves. Celery is actually a stalk vegetable, so most of the time we're concerned with only eating the stalk. And for the most part, in commercial commerce, most of the leaves are actually plucked off. This is a good and a bad thing, depending on how you guys look at it. While this is organic celery, I know a lot of you guys might still be buying conventional celery, and the prices on celery have skyrocketed lately, whereas it makes really good sense to actually grow your own these days. I think conventional celery at a store, like at a regular store that I went to today, was like $2.99 or $3.99 for conventional. The good news is if you go to like a Whole Foods or a Sprouts Farmers Market, they have pre-negotiated rates with their farmers, I believe, and so they are able to offer organic celery for $1.99 or $2.49. Well, that depends on what part of the country you guys live in, and so it's even gonna be less. But I have noticed some of the celery has gotten smaller, the heads have gotten smaller, and the other thing I've noticed is that a lot of the production of celery these days, in my opinion, from what I've seen, has been coming in from Mexico. Not that anything's wrong with Mexico, I visited there, but I kind of wonder if it's organic from Mexico. Is it really organic, or is something getting paid off? I would hope that it is organic. But here's the thing, just because your produce is organically grown doesn't mean it's automatically the best, right? In many cases, and in my experience, organic is more nutritious than conventional for several reasons. Hopefully the farmers are actually adding more than the NPK into the soil to grow a more nutritious crop. In addition, because, chemical pesticides are not being used, in general, but not all cases, organics need to basically produce their own natural pesticides. And if you guys have ever picked like a celery leaf, like fresh off the plant, and then you eat it, which I'll do now, you're like, ugh, that's so nasty, because it tastes like bitter. It tastes even worse than dandelions, right? Why does it taste bitter? Well, the bitter flavors is actually basically the pesticide, natural pesticides that the plants make so that the bugs don't eat it. I might have aphids on some of my, kale here, but there's definitely no aphids on my celery, due to some of these bitter flavors. Well, maybe not aphids, but maybe other bugs, right? And so most of the time, you know, all the leaves are cut off, so you're really not getting those hard flavors. In addition, many celeries can be blanched, which means they're basically, you know, not given sunlight, so they don't green up properly, which means, in my opinion, you know, you're not going to get the full chlorophyll or the full nutrition that it could be providing if you gave it full sun like I am here. In addition, organic growing, or organic certified produce, is actually only, you know, a production you know, method, right? It's only methodology. Like, you can't use these inputs, you can only use these inputs. And while it is healthier for the planet, in my opinion, and it's going to reduce your pesticide, you know, chemical pesticide load, you know, made in a factory, it has nothing to do with how nutritious is the soil. And that's really, if you guys want the highest quality celery, how you guys could have the highest quality celery is by growing your own and actually putting things into the soil that the farmers are not. You know, in my garden, and if you watch my videos, I have over 1,400 videos on growing food on this YouTube channel, many of which are talking about soil amendments, such as rock dust and different kinds of varied rock dust to add a spectrum of trace minerals into the soil. This bed also has actually a special diabetes fertilizer, you know, to support people that have diabetes, or to you know, ensure people don't get diabetes, because it basically has special minerals such as you know, selenium and chromium that has been shown to be, you know, prevalent with people, maybe a deficiency with people with diabetes. And so it's important to get all these trace minerals, and standard conventional or even organic agriculture, from what I've seen, is not adding these trace minerals in. So, you know, as much as the medical medium who's got the whole celery thing popular, and you could thank him for your local store being out of celery. I actually went to Whole Paycheck this morning and they're out of organic celery, for being out of stock. And, you know, basically, there's many reasons why celery is so beneficial, right? Number one, it's a green vegetable, right? So it's alkaline forming in the body. Many people eat acid forming diets. The other thing is it has vitamins and minerals, hey, which are great. It also has different phytonutrients, like the bitterness in the leaves, and, you know, that may be anti-cancer and have all these different disease, you know, preventing properties and health enhancing properties. And then the other thing is the medical medium says it has these special celery salts, which in my opinion are just basically trace minerals, and they're special trace minerals. They're not just minerals that I put in the soil. They're minerals I put in the soil in terms of ground up rocks that then the roots on the celery that are disappeared off this one, but are on mine, are basically pulling up the nutrition and the different trace minerals that are in a rock form or a solid form, and making it in an organic form, changing the charge on it so that when we eat the minerals from the food, then we get their benefits. We're able to basically assimilate them better than if we just had ground up rocks, which we are not designed to do. And so, yeah, so in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to share with you guys actually some of the celery I'm growing, why it's way healthier than this stuff, and how you guys could do it yourself. And of course, I'm going to make a celery juice because this is the first meal that I'm having today. So as you guys can see behind me, I have one of my raised beds. This happens to be like 4 feet by 16 feet long, and this is just in my backyard. You guys don't even need a lot of space to grow your own food, although if you are growing celery, you know, you are using a lot of celery to make your juice. If you're doing the recommended 16 ounces of celery juice, that means you need to harvest 2 pounds or have 2 pounds of celery that you're growing. So, you know, if I want to only grow the celery that I'm juicing, I tend to buy some and juice some from my garden, so I kind of get the best of both worlds. You know, I would have planted out this whole thing in celery. The other thing is, to me, celery is less expensive to buy, so I tend to buy a bunch, although I do also grow it. More important to me than buying, you know, the celery, you know, I want to grow my leafy greens, because the leafy greens, they grow a lot faster, you know, than the celery. They also cost just about as much, and it's more important to me to eat more leafy greens. Not to say that I shouldn't eat celery, but, you know, when I'm juicing it so fast, it goes out very, you know, you use it very quickly. And then the other thing is that the celery, due to the weird climate here, because I'm in the desert, 90 degrees today in April, it tends to bolt very fast, so I don't have a good long season because I generally plant it over the winter time, because in the summer it just gets like over 100 degrees, which is not going to be good for, you know, growing celery. So anyways, so this is like a lot of different things mixed in, and, you know, we're going to go ahead and harvest one stalk. And here's one of my stalks of celery. Now, what do you guys see different in this celery? You're like, John, that's got a disease, man. It looks red. It doesn't look green. Like, what's wrong with that celery? I don't know if you guys could see that. Red. So this is actually like candy cane celery, basically. And that means it has actually red pigments. So this is one of the reasons why my celery is more nutritious than the store-bought, because basically this plant is red. Like basically the celery that I harvest, it has like red streaks in it, and these are actually pigments, maybe known as anthocyanins, that are quite healthy for us, that we should eat in larger quantities. So if, like, they say, oh, blueberries are good, wild blueberries are good. Well, one of the reasons, and there's many reasons, is the anthocyanins. You know, that's why I also like to grow things like purple carrots that I'll probably be harvesting tomorrow and making a juice out of. So I want you guys to eat a lot of purple or rich pigmented colorful foods. And you know, as much as I love green celery, hey, red celery, it's even healthier. The second reason why my celery juice is more nutritious than the store is because I don't harvest it until I'm gonna use it, right? If I'm gonna make celery juice, I'm not gonna harvest it the night before, keep it in my fridge, have it in cold storage. No, I'm gonna come out to my garden and, you know, come out to this nice celery plant here and just pick a nice stalk, and I just have like a really nice fresh stalk of celery that now literally within a couple minutes is gonna go into the juicer. I'm gonna extract all the nutrition out of it, and it's gonna go into meat. And this is actually quite important. You know, people don't realize that once produce is harvested, hydro-cooled, that means it's cooled down and put in a cold environment, chilled, and then put on a truck, in a fridge, and then it's in like a warehouse, then it goes to your store, and then it goes on display. It could be 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks, you know, maybe even a month since they harvested the celery or whatever plant or any food you guys are buying. And over time, right, these are living creatures in the ground. This thing is still alive. It's connected to the roots. It's being fed by the nutrients in the soil, all that stuff. But once you pick it, it basically is still alive, but now it's basically degrading because it doesn't have a connection anymore. It's going to start to dry out. The nutrients are going to dissipate, and you're going to have a less nutritious food. I mean, now some of the minerals in here probably won't degrade so much, but more importantly, in my opinion, is the phytonutrients and antioxidants. These have been shown to degrade significantly, you know, depending on the vegetable and the nutrient being tested. Even within 24 hours, you could have a very significant, maybe up to 50% of certain nutrients be lost, and over time, it just goes down and down. So I want you guys to get the most out of your celery juice, have the most healing potential by growing it yourself and picking it right before you're using it, like I am today. Anyways, what I want to do next actually is I got to go through my garden. I'm just going to go right around to all my plants and harvest like, stalks off, like a couple stalks off every plant, because the other thing is, instead of just harvesting the whole head like you buy at the store, I just harvest like one stalk here, one stalk there, one stalk here. And because I have like over 30 plants, you know, if I harvest one stalk off every plant, the plant, number one, barely misses it. Number two, I can make enough juice. Number three, that plant is going to continue to grow. If I harvest the whole head, then basically I'm cut off. I don't get any more celery juice because I basically cut it all down. While it will regrow, it'll take a lot of time. But yeah, so I like this method, of course, until it bolts, which means the celery is getting to the end of its life cycle, which currently it's doing in my garden. So I'm basically also going to cut off the bolting stems, and I'll be juicing those for you guys too. So the next reason why my celery is better than the grocery store is because my soil blend that I use, right? Most farmers are not concerned with different trace minerals because they don't necessarily need these trace minerals in to produce a nice, big, huge, head of celery that they could sell to you guys. Our food system is based on the quantity that can be produced, whether that's in weights or pieces, but not the quality. And that's really where, if you guys grow yourself, you guys could really make a significant difference. In here, you could see actually a soil blend that I'll be planting my upcoming summer crops in, and I add many different ingredients into the blend, right? The food that you're eating is only as good as the soil. You know, what does industrial farmers' soils look like? You know, in my opinion, they're deficient, and it's producing deficient food. You don't have to take my word for it. You could look up look up the USDA, and they've done testing where, nutrition in an apple today is not the same as an apple in the 1950s. That was a lot more nutritious because we have had soil degradation. So I add specific nutrients into my soil to add trace minerals. And I don't just add one, I add many different kinds, because every different kind of trace mineral supplement has a different balance of trace minerals and I want to try to use these in nature's proportions, not in man-made proportions. And so here I got this stuff called azomite, and actually what this stands for is A to Z of minerals. And so this has a full line of trace minerals in there, although it is high in silica, and maybe has lower ratios of other trace minerals. So there are other brands of rock dust that might be better, but this is the one that's more widely available and actually really inexpensive. This bag was like around $21. It's like, I don't know, 44, 50 pounds, right? And so I do recommend rock dust. I have many videos on rock dust if you're not familiar. You know, people that have used rock dust from my viewers have gotten some really excellent results and even better tasting food than they had before. You know, please be aware that rock dust does take some time to work because you know, the minerals are not necessarily directly absorbable in this form into your plants. You need to have a catalyst to do that, and that's actually the microbes, the microbiology, something else that's not really talked about, you know, in especially conventional agriculture or even organic as much as it should. So I add things like worm castings, you know, that's beyond the scope of this episode. In addition, I might add things like kelp meal, like green sand, also something like this stuff right here, granular humic acids, which are also another great source of trace minerals that are coming basically from rotten plants from when dinosaurs lived. And, you know, they have a lot more nutrition in there. You know, a long time ago, before we had topsoil degradation and things basically ran off into the oceans. And of course, the other way that nutrients are added into the soil is compost. So if you're just making compost, you know, with your compost bin from your food scraps, from yard waste clippings, right? That's going to have minerals in there. This is true. The challenge is, do you have all the full spectrum of A to Z of minerals in the food you're composting? If you're composting fruit from the grocery store that they're using NPK that's conventionally grown, they're not adding trace minerals in there, those minerals are not necessarily going to be in the food you're composting, so they won't even be in your compost. So I always encourage you guys to add extra trace minerals, right? Adding a good trace mineral product, in my opinion, you know, cannot hurt your soil. It can only benefit it, all right? Now, the other way, if you guys don't want to do this, which does take some time to work, if you guys want a more fast-acting approach to adding trace minerals, then we should have to look no further than the ocean, right? The topsoils used to be good in the United States, especially in the Midwest, and then basically due to improper farming practices, including tillage and, you know, using chemicals and all these things, it's basically degraded and washed away. And where does it wash into? Washes into the ocean. So I like to use these ocean-based minerals. This happens to be this stuff called Ocean Solution by oceansolution.com, and they basically concentrate seawater, and so now this is a very trace mineral rich in the ratios that the sea would provide, including the sodium. You know, so that could be important when growing celery. That being said, you do not want to put too much of this stuff, and you want to dilute it. That's why they have this special measuring cup thing. You want to dilute this, and then you could actually foliar feed that, spray that on your plants maybe once a month. I wouldn't do it too much more than that because you can actually have too much sodium buildup, which is not a good thing for your plants, although celery probably is going to absorb more sodium and can handle a little bit more than other plants. Anyways, let's actually get over and share with you guys some more ways why my celery juice is the most nutritious in the world. So now I want to go into some more reasons before we juice why my celery juice and celery is better than the stuff from the grocery store, right? So number one, I want you guys to look at the color, right? This is kind of like, yeah, it's green, but it's like a light green. And right, my celery, some of it's red, and most of it is actually a lot darker green because I do not blanch the celery. So there's going to be more chlorophyll and more nutrients, right? The more sun the plant can get, the more antioxidants and different plant compounds known as phytonutrients the plant makes, right? And so that's why I like, you know, my homegrown celery. Now, the other thing is, if you notice, all the celery that I harvested, I basically chopped off all the leaves, right? And that's because I ain't crazy. If you guys are crazy, you're like, I'm gonna be a man, you could juice this much celery, like I basically 2 pounds of celery harvested on my garden right behind me. With the leaves on, oh my God, you are in for the world of hurt, man. If you make a juice with all the leaves that were on the celery stalks there, it's gonna taste so nasty, so bitter, you're gonna wish you didn't do it, right? It's not gonna burn like a hot pepper, and I'd probably rather drink this bitter stuff than eat a hot pepper where your mouth is on fire like a, you know, boot jalopy or something like that. But still, it does not taste good. I will not recommend you guys to do it. It may make some of you guys ill because it actually is quite and can be quite strong. So I'm not doing that because I'm not, you know, silly. You know, although the other day when I made celery juice with this stuff, I did leave all the leaves on, and I'm like, that gave me a nice reminder not to include the leaves. Now, should you use the leaves, or at least a few leaves, then you're gonna have a more nutritious celery juice. Why, right? Well, different parts of the plant absorb different nutrients, or have different nutrients within them, should I say. And so, for example, celery is a stalk vegetable. You know, all these celery stalks, and the stalks or the stems of plants basically concentrate the minerals, right? This is where the minerals are concentrated. It's the most important place to get the minerals, and that's probably one of the reasons why the medical medium says, you know, juice celery, because you got them special salts in there, the cluster salts. But the other thing is there's nutrients in the leaves as well. You know, there's more chlorophyll in the leaves. There's other different kind of compounds in the leaves that make it bitter. You know, if you eat the stalks only, you could try this at home. Just eat a stalk of celery. It's not that bitter. But if you eat the celery leaf, it's way bitter. Those bitter compounds are actually nutrients. That being said, I like to include some of these leaves sometimes, and if you grow them yourself, you can have an endless supply of leaves, whereas if you buy them at the store, you're just going to get a few leaves, and they actually kind of look ratty a lot of times, and actually a lot of times I'm like, ew, those look kind of gross, I'm not even going to juice those, all right? Now the next reason why your celery that you guys grow at home is better than the store, and Anthony William talks about this as well, is because of the probiotics, right? Whether you want to call them indigenous probiotics, whether you want to call them, whatever you want to call them, probiotics. What are probiotics? Probiotics are beneficial bacteria, right? Anthony Williams says that the probiotics on the food that are existing on the food, like living here, you know, are some of the most powerful that we have not identified yet. And, you know, I would agree with them, right? There's prebiotics in the food. That's why the probiotics are sitting on here. And when you're not spraying your food with any kind of pesticides, and you know, literally I harvested this stalk of celery. I didn't even wash it with water inside, right? If you guys are buying produce from the store, I hope you guys wash it, because you know, this is handled by who knows who that may not have washed their hands after they went to the bathroom. Once it gets to the store, the produce guy handles it, they spray it down. It may have gone to, you know, some kind of facility where they basically wash it a couple times and make sure there's no E. coli contamination. You know, I know there's no E. coli contamination on my crops because, you know, I do not try to use any kind of animal manure, especially uncomposted animal manure, in any kind of amounts. You know, maybe in small amounts, but no large kind of amounts, and that's what generally is used for organic farming is, you know, manure. Hopefully it's been composted properly to kill off the E. coli, but you know, they have all these outbreaks of E. coli on stuff, and that's the bad bacteria, right? If you have enough good bacteria and you're not introducing bad bacteria, such as by using, you know, manure, fresh manure, or, you know, human manure that's being, you know, not provided bathrooms for the workers in the fields, you know, you guys could get sick and people have lost their lives. So we want to get the beneficial microbes and not the bad ones. The only way you guys could assure yourself of doing this is actually by growing it yourself. I spray actually beneficial microbes, including EM1, compost teas, on these plants to ensure I have a good population of microbes, not only for the plant success, but for when I juice them. Now I'm getting some of these beneficial microbes that, you know, in Anthony William, you know, opinion, are so beneficial, right? Something, once again, you're not going to get with the grocery store stuff, all right? Now, so basically, yeah, these guys actually took it and washed. This guy I actually didn't wash because I just harvested to show you guys the leaves. But now what I'm going to do is we're going to juice it, right? And there's many ways to make juice. You could put all this stuff in the blender and blend it up and then strain it out with a sieve, and then you could call that juice. That, in my opinion, is a horrible way, you know, to make celery juice, because you're causing a lot of oxidative damage to the juice. In addition, you must not add water when making the celery juice. You must not add lemon. You must not add lime. You must not add leafy greens. You got to do straight celery juice if you want to get the benefits of celery juice, according to, you know, Anthony William, the medical medium. And I would, you know, say yes. Do it. You know, hey, other juices are great, but drink those at a different time. You know, I love drinking cucumber juice, romaine lettuce juice. I love drinking all kinds of juices, but I drink those after my celery juice has digested. So the first meal of my day usually is celery juice, and here it is. It's pretty late in the day, actually. And now I'm still waiting, because I've been making this video for you guys, to drink my celery juice. But I'll drink this, you know, on an empty stomach. I had water maybe like an hour ago at this point. I'm really thirsty, really hungry. Gonna drink this, and I'm gonna wait at least another 30 minutes or 45 minutes until I have the next juice, you know, that I'll be making probably after this episode is done. So yeah, and so So you want to use the right juicer is the whole point. Don't use a blender. Don't use a high-speed machine. These are the simple, inexpensive juicers you could get at Walmart or wherever that run at a high speed. This does oxidative damage to the nutrients in the juice, especially the antioxidants, which in my opinion are most important. Anthony William may disagree with me. He may say the celery salts are the most important. But, in the end, what it comes down to is all these nutrients as a complete package are important, right? And so we want to get as many of these nutrients as we can, and also, more importantly, extract it in the best way possible. We want to get the most celery salts out of this celery. How can we do that? We have to do that with the most effective juice extractor, and that's right here according to testing. They've done testing comparing this to like a Norwalk, this to like a high speed, this to like a Champion style machine, and this machine, as shown by studies, will pull out more nutrients than others due to the way it works with twin gears, also far infrared and bioceramic, gears that basically help pull nutrients out. Also the way it crushes and squeezes and literally grinds with the produce, immolating our teeth to basically get the most out of the produce. Now, I do need to give you guys a disclaimer that I do sell juicers for a living. If you guys want to learn more about the juicer I'm using today, the Green Star Pro, check the link down below for a video on the Green Star Pro. If you guys want to make the best, highest quality celery juice, highest yield with one pass through, the Green Star Pro, in my opinion, is it of all the different juicers I've tested. And I basically have a juicer. I could use a different juicer every day of the week if I wanted to, but I only use certain ones in my home that actually work for me. And so this one, while it is a little bit more difficult to clean, you're going to be assured you're going to get the highest nutrition juice out of any juicer that I've tested to date, in my opinion. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and juice. Now, this runs at a low RPM, so it's actually quite quiet. We're going to go ahead and turn this on. You could barely hear that running. And the cool thing about this is that there's two gears running in there. We can just take a stalk of celery and drop it in. Look at that. It just sucks it in. I don't even have to use the pusher, right? So now we're just dropping blades of the celery stems in, and now instantly it's being juiced up. I can't even keep up with this thing. It works so fast. So and you guys can see instantly now the juice coming out the bottom, and the pulp will soon start to come out the top. Well, to save you guys some time, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fast forward this so you guys can see me just feed in everything. We're going to come back at you when I got my 16 ounces of the world's best celery juice to drink today. So as you guys can see, we just got done juicing all that celery. Worked no problem whatsoever with the Green Star Pro. Just fed each stalk in. If there's a really thick, like the center bolting stems, which actually are more nutritious than the outer ones, because it really starts concentrated nutrients to send up to the flower so the plant could reproduce. Then I had to use the pusher, but otherwise I did not. This pulp, as it came out, it's like really the celery was just turned into like pulp. I'm not going to call this sawdust because it's still a bit wet, but if I just grab a whole bunch in my hand and squeeze it, I could barely squeeze a few drops out. It's actually fairly dry, and it's done a really good job to break up all the strings and literally crush up, grind up, and get all the nutrition as much as possible in a juicer that I'm aware of out of the celery. So here's the juice. We made basically 2 and I think 1/3 cups, no, maybe 2.5 cups of juice out of basically 2 pounds of the celery. And now I'm gonna get to drink my 2 cups of celery juice today. We're gonna go ahead and pour it in a glass, and I'm gonna use a little sieve here as we pour it in to make sure I have a pulp-free juice. There is a little bit of pulp being caught, by the sieve here. All right, I think that's maybe it's like 16 ounces or something, about. And we're gonna go ahead and try the world's best celery juice right now, straight from the garden right behind me. You saw the whole process. Now I'm not gonna feed you guys, even though I removed the leaves, this celery juice is quite strong. I find it acceptable. If I put leaves in there, then it would be really unacceptable. But this does have bitter overtones, so unless you're like a celery juice connoisseur or a green juice connoisseur, which I've been doing for a long time, you might want to just stick with the stuff from the store because it's a lot more mild, and you'll probably also get the benefits from that, as many of Anthony William people doing the celery juice have. But if you want to take it to the next level, I would encourage you guys to use some of the practices that I've shared with you guys today. Juice yourself with the best juicer, and even if you don't do all the components that I showed you how to make the best celery juice, do as many of them as possible so that you guys could have the highest probability of getting the most nutrition in your celery juice, which in my opinion, is going to help you heal better, faster, and maybe even stronger, all right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode of me making the world's best celery juice, hey, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also be sure to share this video with people on the Medical Medium program in different forums, Facebook groups, share it on your Instagram, Twitter, feed, Facebook, whatever, so that more people can be aware if they want to take their health to the next level, how to literally get the most nutrition out of the celery you're juicing, and and even grow it yourself, right? And especially with the rising price of celery, you could buy a pack of celery seeds. The price on celery seeds did not go up, unlike the celery. You could buy the celery seeds for a couple bucks, maybe a buck or two. Plant them in your garden. One pack of seeds could have like 100 little seeds in there. You could have 100 heads of celery for just a couple bucks. Of course, you got to tend to it and harvest them. And you just go out and harvest, one off every plant every day. And you could be making enough celery juice to eat. You're probably going to have a good, significant amount of celery. Because, the celery that I've grown never really grows up to this nice, big, huge stuff. For me, because I just kind of let it grow natural grown and kind of more wild, in which case, it's going to be more nutritious in the end for you. So also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I'm coming out every 3 to 4 days. You never know where I'll show up or will be learning on my YouTube channel. If you guys are interested in getting this juice, once again, link is down below to learn more about this with a video presentation or a link to the website if you just want to purchase one. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 1,400 episodes on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys the best way to grow your own high-quality food at home. And also, I'm trying to start with having more videos on how I use the foods that I grow in my garden so you guys could actually get the benefits out of them. That's the most important thing to me. Before I started gardening, actually, I started making major dietary changes to eat mostly fruits and vegetables is what my diet consists of, which in my opinion are the best foods on the planet, and that's also shown by scientific published studies. All right, so with that, my name is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.